We're gonna talk about metaphor, ReFantazio, whatever, however you say that word. We're gonna talk about that. It's by the Atlas, the creators of Persona and Shimi Tensei. It's always hard to say that word. It's always by those guys, but also it's under a studio called Studio Zero, which my understanding is they were designed to make this game. And when they originally started doing this, it was just under the name Project ReFantazio. So it kind of went with the same name, but didn't. So it's more of a fantasy setting, as the name kind of implies. And it starts out with the king, and the king gets murdered, and the series of things, like it's right at the beginning of the opening cutscenes, they tell you this dude's a villain. Like this dude is going to be your villain through the whole setting. And then when you push start and start the game, you play as this character that's also been connected to the part that he's got to do it because this prince, I don't know why I said princess, prince has been cursed, and he's got to deliver this letter, blah blah blah, and he's got to get to the point to find out that you got to kill the villain to lift the curse so that the prince can come in and blah 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 blah, all that. um, yeah, and then throughout that you find these other people that join your party that also are like, oh, I want to stop him as well. He's not a good person, kind of thing. Or they have their other motives, I've noticed. But they do the whole like Persona thing, but it's not, you're stuck in a classroom, you're not doing classroom questions. It's more like an RPG in a sense, because they do the weakness stuff, but they don't do the you have the personas with you. Like there's no Jack or whatever his name is from the Atlas games, and there's none of the other personas like Persona and Tensei do. It's more of a job system with this, like Final Fantasy, where anybody can be the class. You can swap them out anytime you want. There's levels that they have to go, and then there's advanced classes that they eventually go through. So it's 100% like a job class. And like I said, everybody can do them, and then once you have like the full team, you can go through and make the build that you want. Since like synergize with everyone, like, oh, this person is going to weaken that and weaken that, blah blah blah. That's that sense. But with the whole like Persona thing, with the time thing, they do like you're in a town, and then you have like a vehicle that takes you to the locations you need to go. But they'll say like, oh, it's going to take you 2 days to get to that dungeon. So like a series of stuff will happen. Like you'll get to a rest point and then continue on. When you're going through, there's like a narrator that talks about, oh, they went through this path and blah 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 blah. It feels very D&D like, and like I don't know, it's cool. I like how they did that. And then the like transition from cutscenes they did really well. Like there's some where it's the traditional, there's the bar down here, and there's the talking blah blah blah, and then the in-game cutscenes, and then it goes into like an actual CGI cutscene where it looks so good. The animation is so cool looking. Like every time they do that, I'm always like, oh, cool. There's one of these cutscenes happening, and it's so cool looking. And like the combat already, like even the drawing for like, so you go to the menu, like there's the dude, the main character, and his face is right there, and like you can tell it looks like it's been drawn. It probably hasn't, but it looks like it's been drawn. And the fact that the dude's sitting there just blinking his eye every so often and like sitting there is cool to think like if somebody drew that, and then like the rest of the game looks like that, like somebody drew it. But yeah, and then like the battle system is basically like Persona, where if you have the weakness, you can hit them and then hit them again. There's like a system up here where I've noticed where it kind of prevents you from just keep doing it over and over again. They kind of stop you at some point, like, oh, you're doing it too much, you can't go anymore, which is fair. I mean, the older Persona games, you basically just break the game. In this, they kind of make it for no, that boss is not going to just get stopped like that. You can do his weakness, but he's not going to be stopped like that. And then so far the story, the character gets to a point in the story, and he meets up with the two other people that he's with, blah blah blah, and then you find out they're doing this like tournament to the thrones. So everyone gets like a mark on their head because there's like a statue of the king comes in, basically like says, "Oh, I want everyone to have a chance to be the king. I don't want just anybody to step in that's not worthy." So everybody's going to have a voting chance to basically get a chance to say, "Hey, that's the person I want to be the king," and then that's what's going to happen. So they do the whole like thing where you have to run around, do quests for everybody, and then you got to get your followings up. So like in Persona, you had to get your I don't remember what they were called. They were the stats that you had to get maxed out in Persona. I don't remember what they were called in that. But in this, they do the same thing, but there's only like 5, and it's a crown, and you're like building up your following for more potential quests to pop up and more loyalty. Yeah, stuff like that. So you're basically building up a loyalty while the king, the prince, is asleep and is cursed, and you're basically candidating for him throughout the game and making it for that he wins and he becomes the king at the end of the game, I'm guessing. I'm really far into it. Obviously, it's like a Persona game. It's going to take like 100 plus hours sometimes to beat these games. There's obviously a lot to do, but like I said, instead of like the whole like you're stuck in a town, there's a lot of like I'm traveling to this dungeon, I'm traveling to this town, I'm traveling to this village, I'm visiting other places around the valley, which is cool. And like I don't know, it's different. I think this is a little bit more in my alley for Persona than Persona. And don't get me wrong, I love Persona and the whole like all that stuff, but some of the deadlines are super time consuming. Like, oh, you need to do it tomorrow, or shit out of luck kind of shit. With this game, I've noticed a lot of the like side quests I've come across are like there's no deadline. So I can go off. I've gone off on like the story bit for a little bit, and then went back and did that dungeon without having to be like, oh, well, you did that? Well, too bad. I've noticed there's a lot of like leeway where like, oh, we understand that you might want to do story for a little bit and then come back, do these. But there is some I've noticed there is a deadline. But so far, the side quests I've yet to see deadlines for. And there is the whole like you're bonding with your teammates like in the Persona game. Like there's a lot of the mechanics from Persona, but what I've noticed is they took a lot of the mechanics and implemented. That's a lot of things I've noticed with Atlas is they'll take the things that from the previous games and then they'll listen to their fans and be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that, or maybe we should have made that better. So if you like the Persona games, if you like the Shimi Tensei games, this might be up your alley. It's more of a fantasy setting. It's more of a turn-based setting because it's more like the job systems and you're getting your class together, blah 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 blah. And so you might get into this one. A lot of people are saying this is like a lot of first timers for them because this is like, oh, this drove me in more than a Persona game because I understand the whole class system is annoying. So yeah, if you like that stuff, check it out.